All right. All right. For those of you who are signing on, let me know if you can hear me. I am going to be going live here in a few minutes, actually less than 1 minute. So, yeah, let me know how that goes. All right. 9:45. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask. What I am going to do, however, so I'm going to share my screen here real quick because I want to show you guys something I just came up with yesterday, actually. And it is the 5 phases of training. You know what I'm going to also do? I'm going to go live here with Instagram, see how that works. Get a few more questions in the group. So, all right. So, hey, we're starting here live. I'm actually live on YouTube right now, and I am live on Instagram. So, I'm going to show you guys on Instagram what I am showing the folks on YouTube because I'm sharing my screen with them. So, you guys can see that previous post I did on Instagram about the phases of goal achievement. And this is, I wrote it for fitness just because I'm a fitness writer, but this is really any freaking goal for that matter, right? That you have in your heart, right? Any particular goal you want. So anyway, if you guys take a look at the that little chart I made, it's just a little graph, nothing fancy. Step one, you got to make a decision, right? And usually that decision comes with like, holy crap, I'm so motivated. I got this great idea. I want to go do X, whatever that is. Hey, I'm going to one day, you may come to your family and say, I'm going to be a doctor, right? Or I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. I'm going to be a special operator, a fireman, whatever, whatever that is, that decision that you find that, hey, this is my path in life, comes with a lot of motivation, comes with a lot of energy. And you kind of see this path just kind of light up in your way for you all of a sudden. And there's some unique science about it. Some people say that motivation is actually part of our survival skill, because when you do get motivated, you're actually setting yourself on a course of providing for yourself, providing for your family, whatever. You're advancing in life so you can provide better for them. There's all types of little things. A lot of times it also has to do with life, right? So a lot of people, guys in particular, get motivated because they meet a girl and they're going to do everything they can to go see that girl, right? So that's part of us as a species. We want to, have food, want to have shelter, want to have clothing, and we want to procreate and make new babies, right? That is part of, if you think of us as a caveman animal, that is what the basics of what we do. And so motivation kind of stems from there. That's why they kind of have done some scientific study on it, and it's really mixed in there with some adrenaline, and it kind of keeps you pumped towards going towards that goal, whatever that goal is. Now, we obviously have evolved since caveman days, but at the same time, we have those same hormonal responses when we get excited, when we get motivated, right? But step one, that motivation is going to have to turn into discipline at some point, right? So let's see if we're getting any questions here. All right, good. You can hear me. Good. All right. So any other questions over there? I got a lot of questions coming in from coming in from Instagram, looks like. I'll get on it in a second. I just want to go through this chart real quick. So step one, you're motivated, right? But that motivation has to turn into discipline. And the way that happens is you build habits. You get in and you go work out when you don't feel like it. You wake up when you're comfortable in your bed, and you get up early when you don't really want to get up. You want to stay and sleep and hit snooze, but you get up anyway. That is when motivation is low, discipline has to be high. Just remember that. Otherwise, you will never get to step two, right? Where step two is you're doubting yourself, right? But that's natural. I mean, we all have doubts along any journey that we take. You know, anybody who says, hey, I knew I was going to do it 100% from day one. Hey, that's great. You know, but 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to have some kind of doubts along the way. Hey, is this the right decision? Is this for me? Am I good enough? Did I train hard enough? All those kind of doubts come into play. And the best thing to do is just go ahead and doubt yourself early and get it over with, right? And you need to start focusing on never quitting, right? Because then you get into step 3, you conquered your doubt. And that's when the magic happens, right? And you're able to start, creating a lifestyle change for yourself, both personally and physically, professionally, whatever that is. You start associating yourself with people who are fit and people who are in that zone of where you want to be, with your goal, whatever that goal is. And then, step 5, we're talking about what's next, especially with fitness. Fitness is a journey. It is not a destination. So you have to just keep rolling. What is next? If it's a fitness goal, let's say you just got out of sports, right? You're trying to find something else, right? You accomplished everything you could in your athletic career. Now what's next? Maybe it's triathlons, maybe it's powerlifting, whatever that is, right? Maybe you're going to go run a marathon. Hey, whatever floats your boat. You want to be a champion obstacle course racer. Hey, that's cool. Figure out a plan, figure out what's next, and go with it. And the big thing there is no matter where you start, you got to have a plan, because a goal without a plan is just a wish. Okay. Remember that. So there you go. So I'm back on. Going to take some questions here. Let me see what kind of questions we have with the group. Let's see. Dashboard. And let's see. Looks like we got a lot of questions on Instagram, some on YouTube. If you got some on YouTube, go ahead and send them. By the way, I'll save this for the day on Instagram, but it will be on my YouTube page. My YouTube page is Stu50Smith. My Instagram page is StuSmith50. For those of you who aren't familiar with my YouTube channel, I have hundreds of videos on there, videos of exercises. We've got a whole library, over 120 videos of 5-second exercises. If you're not familiar with some of the exercises, I got hundreds of swim videos on there. Now we have over 100 podcasts on there. Many of them are Jeff Nichols and myself, my 2 through and afters. You can find them all on YouTube. For those of you who are on YouTube, not familiar with my Instagram, StuSmith50. I pretty much post probably about 4 or 5 swim videos a week of what we're doing here locally. So get your questions in if you got some. So let's see what we have here. Got a couple questions. Where to look for ideal diet while training? Well, that's one of those questions that I cannot answer because I need more info. Are you trying to lose weight, trying to gain weight? Are you training for performance? Are you training for bodybuilding? Are you training for powerlifting? Are you training for a triathlon or a marathon? Your question, that is classified as an unfinished question, right? Not a stupid question, but I can't answer it because I don't have enough information, right? There are books that answer that question, and I can't really answer it. So anyone from Ohio need a training buddy. So yeah, you guys get together, train with each other. Do you already have videos on workout mobility, warm up, and post workout stretching? Videos. No, not really. I have books with pictures in them. Um, However, today, once questions are done, I'm going to show you something um, that I use for mobility just about every day. But first, I'm going to get to this question. What was I most nervous about pre-selection? Good question. I would say that probably I knew my weakness was running compared to everything else. I wasn't a bad runner. I wasn't a failing runner. You know, I could run a 9-minute mile and a half. I could break 9 minutes some days. You know, I could run a 26:30 4-mile run, but it hurt every time I did it. Like that was my gut check. So I was most nervous about one, getting injured, and two, making sure I had enough want to in my body for when I had to make those gut checks. So that's, you know, sometimes when you do a gut check, you got to dig a little deeper. Maybe you need to carb up a little bit too. So you got to have fuel so you can go anaerobic and hit those, you know, those gut checks. Here's a good question on YouTube. Hey, I want to start doing some interval runs to get my run times down. I'm currently doing hypertrophy workout. So would you recommend doing intervals before or after the workout? Yeah, that's a good question. I always do this. Whatever you want to get better at, do first. All right. However, once you get to a certain level, you're going to have to rearrange it, especially if you're getting ready for a fitness test, and arrange it to the order of your fitness test. So for instance, swimming first, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, running last. That is a Navy SEAL PST, right? It's not the Air Force PST because they swim first, run second, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, you know, in that order. So depending on the order of your test that you are trying to prepare for and trying to compete at high levels, I would definitely rearrange your training that way. However, you know, if you're doing hypertrophy and you need to gain weight, you know, I would probably do hypertrophy first and run last. If you are doing hypertrophy, you're a pretty big guy already, just trying to get a little bigger. I would run first, especially if you suck at running. So that's probably going to be a little challenge, but, you know, play around with both ends, you know, put it on the front end some days, put it on the back end some days, and see what happens. Typically, whatever you do second suffers. That's just it's the way life is, right? But if you can fuel up, you know, during your workout, you can definitely have a little bit more juice in the system so you can push a little harder and be a little more closer to uh, you know, pre-lifting running pace and vice versa. So how to begin training for a 5-mile timed run for Ranger School. My mile and a half is 9:17, but I have trouble running further than that at a good pace, and I weigh around 150. Well, at 150, you know, you just need to get in shape for running. You know, there's nothing like your body weight is not dragging you down. It's your heart and lungs that is dragging you down. So I would say, you know, get in there, start increasing your running distance. You know, if, you know, you haven't progressed up to a 5-mile run, maybe take a few weeks and progress to a 5-mile run over time. Maybe take a month to do that, you know, maybe adding, you know, a mile per week to one of your longer runs. But also, you know, if you're kind of new to running, you probably don't need to run every day yet, right? Even though at 150 pounds, you're not getting a whole lot of impact forces on you. You probably need to throw in some, you know, biking, Tabata intervals or pyramids, elliptical pyramids, rowing Tabata intervals. All those are really good cardio non-impact activities. Swimming is another one that can help you work your lungs and your legs too, which is what you need to do. So I would start doing leg PT, where running leg PT, where you run at your goal pace. So you're going to have to run, right now you run about a 6-minute mile for a mile and a half, but you're going to have to run an 8-minute mile. That's your minimum. So I would say try to hit a 7-minute to 7.5-minute mile for your 5-mile run. So I would start practicing multiple sets of quarter miles and half miles at that 7:30 pace. No, you can't go any slower than a 8-minute mile pace. So your quarters can't be anywhere over 2 minutes, right? So I would suggest keeping it between 140 and 150. That'll give you a little bit of gravy on that 5-mile timed run. But, as with anything, you got to progress and progress smartly, because, going from 1.5 miles to 5 miles should be done over time. It doesn't need to be done from Monday to Saturday, right? You should be progressing about, maybe you're at 10 miles a week spread out with 5 days. Eventually you should be up to 20 miles a week spread out to 5 days, and you're almost in that zone. You can throw a 3-mile run in there and a 5-mile run in there, and, you can build up over time to get to, that kind of mileage. So once again, it also depends on how much of a beginner you are, because you may need to run every other day if you're having shin pains, knee pains, those type of things. So everybody's a little bit different. All right. So another question: I've been practicing combat swimmer stroke and have the form down. However, I'm struggling getting power through the kicks. What's a good way to train for this? I would get a kickboard out and start kicking and gliding. Notice how far you glide when you kick. Right? So I usually put a kickboard under my arm here and just stay on my side and do a big scissor kick and see how long I glide before I lose all my momentum. Then you kick again. Right? So that will also show you, if you can't get a yard, 2 yards off a kick, you're probably not kicking right. Right? So another way too is just have somebody video you swimming and post it. Send me the link and I'll watch it for you and show you what you're doing right or wrong. So I do that all the time with my membership plan, but I don't mind doing it occasionally, whenever I have some time to watch it, whether it's on Instagram. You can post it on Instagram and tag me in it, or you can post it on YouTube and send me the link. I don't download videos, so don't send me an email with a video in it. I try to keep my work clean of downloads, because never know, somebody send me a virus. That would suck. All right. Hey, let me show you something real quick. People ask all the time about the car buffer, right? So, and I have to give Jeff Nichols credit for this. This Ryobi car buffer right here is awesome. And it's just a hand car buffer. I actually got it on a website called cpooutlets.com. And I think they go for like $16, right? They're refurbished. But what I do with it is I just turn it on and stick it right on whatever joint that hurts. Right now, we did a killer chest workout on Saturday, and we did some push-ups today. And I tell you, my chest is tight. So I just keep it right here, hit that spot. Oh, man, and it starts producing a little heat. And remember, this is not a spinning, it's not a polisher, right? This is an orbital sander, orbital buffer. So it's not spinning at all, right? It is vibrating. Now, if I don't put enough pressure on it, it will spin, right? So cool thing about it is that vibration also produces a little bit of heat. Now, why this and not an actual tool? Well, you can buy a vibrating tool if you want, massage tool. This vibrates at roughly 50 hertz, 50 to 55 hertz. And if you look at the therapeutic range of vibrating massage tools, it's usually between 48 and 72. There's plus or minus several, hertz in there, but typically that's where most therapeutic um, massage devices, they are calibrated for that perfect, um, therapeutic frequency. This is rated at 55, but obviously it's a car buffer. So I couldn't sell these as a medical device and say, hey, use it as a massage tool. I could, but I'd have to also say this is a car buffer and you could have a shiny car too. But anyway, I use it like that. It's really awesome. So you put it on your knee, put it on your IT bands. I put it on my shins, hips really after a ruck. I put right up on my hip area and, outside hip, hamstrings, all that's really phenomenal. And it wipes away the pain temporarily, but it wipes it away. It's really an incredible device. Now I use the foam roller as well, right? However, if you want to spend $200, you can get yourself a vibrating foam roller, right? You can buy a $10 foam roller from the store, or you can buy a $200 that vibrates. And this is made by Hyper Ice. If you haven't seen these yet, they are really cool. This one, I don't know if you can see, hear it vibrating, but it is vibrating at 48 hertz. Then it goes to 60 hertz, and then it goes to 72 hertz. That thing is vibrating pretty good, right? You can put it wherever you want. You can sit on it. Never a bad thing, especially if you got some hamstring issues. Get that thing going right there. So anyway, the Hyper Ice is phenomenal. Like I said, it's a $200 device. If you want the poor man's massage tool, get yourself a regular foam roller and a $20 Ryobi car buffer. You can get any car buffer. I just happen to like the Ryobi because it's small, and what I found is it's got a nice little extension cord on it too. So anyway, you gotta love that. That is a good one. All right, so let me see where some more questions are here. For anyone who has little physical conditioning, what would be the proper way of making a self-assessment to best plan out a program? Well, I would start off with anything very similar to what I started off this video with, was what is your goal, right? So is it to pass a fitness test? Is it to run a 10K, half marathon, triathlon, Ironman, obstacle course race? Do you want to join the military, police, firefighter? So I would set a goal and then figure out what you need to get to that goal and achieve those scores and those exercises and do those exercises. I break up fitness into 3 phases. And since I focus on tactical fitness, we're going to talk about tactical fitness into 3 phases. You got to get to the training first. So that typically means you have to pass a medical exam. You have to, go through a recruiter. You got to pass a fitness test. That fitness test could be one that's just a health and wellness test to make sure you're capable of joining the military and wear a uniform without looking like a pile of crap. Or it is to actually compete for something more challenging in the spec ops world. That's typically how most of those things go. So you got to get to the training. Sometimes that requires you to be very competitive on fitness tests. So you got to crush a fitness test. Then you got to get through the training. That means some of your training before you leave to go into the military needs to be in preparation of your next phase. I've talked about this in many other podcasts on my YouTube channel, and also that you can get them on Google Play and iTunes, the tactical fitness report in there. But anyway, so to, through, and after. So you got to get to the training. You got to get through the training. Both of those phases occur in what I call the wannabe phase, the trainee phase, or recruit phase, the candidate phase that you have to start preparing yourself for. You can't let boot camp do that, right? You can't just go into boot camp completely out of shape and think boot camp's going to get you in shape. It will get you in better shape if you are really in bad shape. But typically, if you're really crushing PT tests and you're trying out for a spec ops level program, boot camp's going to get you out of shape, and you got to treat it like a taper. And then you go through your prep course and build yourself back up before you go back into the screening program. All right. So let me take something here from Instagram real quick. Question: being constantly cold and wet and stressed out and buzzed, do you guys ever get sick? Yes. Is being sick a normal thing at buds? Like I said, I got sick. I was lucky. I got sick on a Thursday, was able to suck it up a little bit on a Thursday. I went to the doctor on Friday and they gave me the day off, and I went to my room, went to sleep, drinking fluids, and had Saturday and Sunday off and came back on Monday. So you can't, I think the rule is you can't miss 2 training days or 3 training days in a row without going up to a board and getting rolled. There's just too much going on at buds to allow for you to be missing training. So you can only hold it for too long. I mean, if you're going to get the whole class sick and you're contagious, you have to go to medical, right? And if you can time it, to be, which you can't, but if you can suck it up for a day, maybe try to go in on a Friday, take 3 days off, basically with the weekend, with a Friday, that would be a good way to do it. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you're puking sick on a Tuesday and you just got to get well, or you're probably going to get rolled. Doesn't mean you're going to get kicked out. Just means you're going to have to join the next class. So, yes, but it happens. And sometimes you just get through being sick too. I mean, I've seen guys, get through buds sick and injured, right? And you just suck it up. I mean, I think learning how to play with pain is part of buds, but at the same time, there comes a fine line between mentally tough and stupid. And if you're going to, one, make yourself really sick and almost die, that would be stupid. You're going to suck up an injury so much that it becomes a permanent injury. That's stupid, right? But, there are some borderline mentally tough things that you may have to try, to see how long you can. And then people will start realizing, hey, he looks like shit. So you're probably going to be talked to by the instructor and say, hey, get to medical, don't worry about it, get to medical and we'll roll you, or you can catch up with the test next week or something like that. So things like that happen too. All right. Good question though. Let's see, let's go back to YouTube here. So I'm on YouTube live. Why did all of your podcasts with Jeff get deleted? They did on his site. They didn't on mine. If you go to mine, you'll see them. Jeff is revamping his website and YouTube channel. He may be putting these videos back up there, but he just wanted to start with a clean slate and start all over, which is what he did. So my videos that I did with Jeff are still on my site. So when you say your podcast with Jeff get deleted, they got deleted from his page, not mine. And you can find all of our podcasts on iTunes and Google Play if you do a search for Tactical Fitness Report. We've done over 135. So I haven't deleted any of them. So they're out there if you look. I'm a swimmer and a sophomore in high school and able to exceed the minimum requirements for the COPST. That's great. Would you say I am doing well in fitness-wise since I have 2 years before I can enlist? Well, first of all, I would say don't be in a rush to enlist at 18 years old, period. I've seen swimmers have a lot of issues at buds, mainly with running, as well as load bearing, log PT, boat carries, if they weren't prepared and didn't previously lift to be able to handle and run, to be able to handle those impact forces. Because you got to think, if you're a swimmer and that's all you do, you are great in zero gravity. But once gravity starts getting a hold of you, you'll start falling apart. And I've seen swimmers fall apart real quick, mainly in the shins, knee tendonitis, stress fractures, lower back issues, just because they're not used to lifting heavy. So you got to have some power in you. If you go back to the we did several podcasts, Jeff and I did, on certain athletes preparing for buds, right? You should watch those, because we did one for swimmer, did one for the hockey player, which is kind of close. They're a little more durable, but they're used to non-impact, on the legs, and they can get some of the same shin injuries as swimmers can. But they tend to be a little bigger and lift a little more too. So anyway, you'll see what we did in the previous podcast, and one was for a swimmer. So, but the other thing is, don't be in a hurry to just go join at 18 years old, right? My class was filled with 18-year-olds the first 3 weeks. And then after, not even after Hell Week, before Hell Week and during Hell Week, we had a handful of 18-year-olds left. So just remember that. Now, the Navy won't ever tell you that. I'll tell you that. I don't know what the statistics are, but I'd like to see them. I can tell you what my class was. I think we had 3 18-year-olds that graduated. We started with probably over 100 and I don't know, maybe 100, over 120, 100. Yeah, somewhere around that. So let's see what's next. What's the best approach for the 300-meter sprint? My gut tells me explode out of the start, maintain speed, stride, and curve. Empty tanks in the last 100. That's a good plan. Especially for the FBI fitness test, something you have to do is not only get good at the 300-meter sprint, but make sure your 300-meter sprint doesn't screw up your 1.5 mile timed run, which is a few minutes later. So you really have to train both, the same day. I would always end your workouts with a 1.5 mile timed run, especially after, sprinting and doing your push-ups and sit-ups. That's always a good way to kind of prepare yourself for, running low on blood sugar and glycogen, during that 1.5 miles. A lot of people would just bonk out on that 1.5 miles. So yes, the sprint, I typically start off like this. I'm a guy that kind of progresses into the sprint, a 300 or a 400. I'll start off that first 100 at maybe 85%. So not a full sprint from the start. I'll build up my pace. And then that middle 200, I'm up to 90, 95. And that last 100, I go all out and really put it into high gear on the last 100. But you can do it either way. I would suggest practicing and playing around with different methods and see what you score better on, right? I like your method of coming out of the start fast, maintaining it, stride it around the curve and then hit it hard on the last 100. Nothing wrong with that method either. So good question though. I like that one, especially for you FBI guys that have to take the 300. When training for the PST, how much sleep? Obviously aware of variance in people. Should you be getting at night? It's as with anything, I would suggest 6 to 8 hours, 6 being on the low end, 8 being on the high end. If I typically get 6 to 7 hours a night of sleep, and that seems to be pretty good. Sometimes on the weekend I might get 8, but I rarely go over 8, and I rarely go under 6. Every now and then I have to get 5 just because of life, but you just still keep moving. Maybe take a nap later on. Okay, let's see. If you could do it all over again, would you consider pursuing a SWIC career? Do they see a lot of action? You know what? They didn't have SWIC when I was in. We had special boat units, and it was a different world back then. They still have special boat units, but it wasn't a closed group, and officers didn't go to SWIC, right? Every now and then you had a SWO officer do some special boat unit stuff, but most of the time it was SEALs running the special boat unit commands, and you had um, regular fleet guys that were trained in the boat. So in my day, that was not an option. And there's no SWIC officer, there's SEALs. So a SEAL can finish buds, be an officer, go to SEAL teams, go to a SWIC team, be in charge of a SWIC operations, XOCO, that type of stuff. So it was just a different world. But no, it's a great job. I'd highly recommend it for anybody who wants to serve some way in special ops. And if you like boats and you like fast boats and driving them and shooting machine guns, jumping out of planes, hey, it's a good gig. Let's see. I have a hip impingement, no tear on the labrum, but it's just my right hip. I had labral surgery on my other side. Woo. Do you have any tips about enlisting? I can move. I just have no limitations. Well, that's good. I tell you, one thing's good nowadays compared to my day was if you had a shoulder or a hip labrum tear, you were done. I mean, you could not join. It was irreparable, right? You just could not get it fixed properly. So now surgery, fast forward 20 years later, surgeries are much better. And we have guys that are going through buds with hip surgeries, going through buds with shoulder surgeries, labrum tears are repaired. So surgery's gotten much better. So the waivers are there. So you can still get waived for that surgery. But I would just focus on building your hips. You got a lot of hip muscles in there, adductors, abductors, psoas, lower back, glutes, all those things that are around your hip, you need to build them strong so they can protect your hip a little better. Flutter kicks, on your back, flutter kicks on your belly, open and close your legs while your feet are off the ground, all those ab exercises that work your hip flexors, those are required. But yeah, mixing in lifting with calisthenics, sit-ups, so that they don't hurt. All those things are going to be tested in your future. So you need to get your hips mobile enough to be able to handle it. Wouldn't be a bad idea to take some yoga actually and do some mobility work. Use one of these things for your hips too. That really helps, get in there pretty deep. Something I do for my hips is I tread water with no hands all the time. And then I do all my dynamic stretches that I normally would do before any athletic activity or for a workout. And I do it in chest deep water. So leg swings, front and back, side to side, bounding, high knee, hip openers, all those little things. Do that in chest deep water. Do each for 10 minutes. So 10-minute tread, 10-minute dynamic stretches. You got yourself a great little hip mobility workout. I call it mobility day, actually. So I'll do 5 minutes of non-impact activity followed by 5 minutes of stretching, foam rolling, and or car buffering. And you got yourself do that 5 times. So in an hour, you've done it 5 times and you leave feeling great. Top it off with a little time in the pool, even better. All right. So here's a good one. I'm 130 pounds. Should I focus on gaining weight for buds? Yes. But you know what I would also say? If you were 230 pounds, I would say you should focus on losing weight for buds. Think about buds as this bell curve of people, right? And this bell curve of people, you have on the low end, you have your 130 to 150 range, right? On your high end, you have your 220 to 240 range, right? And in the middle, you have everybody else. So between 160 and 210, right? And that's most of the people are in that zone. I would say most of the people are even in the 170 to 200 range, right? So that is the average size graduate. I would say most people are in that zone that graduate. So your chances of graduating are much less the lighter you are, and your chances of graduating are much less the heavier you are, right? Just looking at statistics of height and weight, not, looking at mental toughness and how tough you are and all that and how strong you are. Doesn't matter, right? At 130 pounds, you need to grow, right? I'm not sure if you're young, but if you're in the teens, don't even consider going to buds in your teens if you're 130 pounds, because you are a late bloomer, right? You may gain 30 pounds in a year at 19, and that's going to be a lot more beneficial to you at 19 and 20 versus being 18 trying to go to buds at $130, right? I personally think it's too light, right? And you're going to have to suck up a lot of time under the boats and logs getting crushed. And you will find that getting crushed under a boat and log is not fun, even if you're a 180, 190 pound guy, right? So be prepared for that. Not that you can't do it. You can. I'm not saying don't. Just take some advice and grow a little bit. That's one thing about buds is, you got to treat it almost like, you graduate high school, how you would go to college and maybe play sports in college, and they have that red shirt freshman year. There's a reason for that. It's because you're a boy playing with men, at 20, 21, 22 years old, right? You're still a kid growing at 18 years old. And many of us were growing up until age of 20. I know I was a big kid at, because I power lifted and all that through high school. So I was too big at 18 years old. I had to lose about 15, 20 pounds by the time I was 22 before I went to buds and was a competitive athlete, to go through buds. So most people are just a little bit opposite. They start off really light and they're still growing to age 20. But we've had young guys make it through that were growing all the way through buds. Some guys gain 10, 15 pounds at buds. Most of us lose a little bit or maintain. So just depends on your age really, but just be prepared. That's the thing. Don't be in a rush, have some patience and be prepared for all of that. Just because you're 18 doesn't mean you have to join the Navy, right? You can join the Navy at 20 and be a lot more prepared. So, and don't think you're too old because you're 20 or 22. Don't think you missed your shot because you're 23 years old. There's an age limit from 17 to 29, right? There's a decade. You have a decade of choice. So don't cut yourself short, and don't be overconfident thinking that you can make it just because you turned 18 or that you have to join because you're 18. All right. I've gone on pretty far here. So let me see. Let's see what's next. I'll do one from Instagram here. How many hours of sleep should I be aiming for at night? 6 to 8. All right. Some of these are the same questions. Punching power for boxing. Well, power, has a component of speed in it. So your movement should have speed in them. You can do it with push-ups or bench press even, right? You can come down slow and explode up, right? That is an explosive component to a push-up, and you will be adding speed to a movement. I mean, that's what power is, a component of speed, or speed is a component of power. So force and speed. So you need to do both. You need to have fast movements, but you also need to have some controlled ones along with speed, right? Especially on the power phase, right? Whenever you're punching. But yeah, that chest shoulder connection should definitely have some speed work in it. Same with your bicep, tricep. Anytime you work those, should have some speed into it. All right, so let's see what's next. I'm going to do one more. Call this a quits because I have gone for 45 minutes already. I usually try to limit these to 30 minutes. Okay, we got a couple people coming out to our program. I tell you what, I'm going to end it up on this. So if you wonder like where I am, who is this guy and where am I? I'm in Maryland, a little town called Severna Park, Maryland. And we do free training here for anybody who wants to serve. Been doing it for 15 years. In fact, one day, I was just talking to a guy, we're going to do a 20-year reunion here in 2023 and get everybody who's been training with me come back for a big reunion party, which I think will be really fun because we have hundreds of people in special ops and law enforcement and firefighters, and just be a good old time. So anyway, been doing it for 15 years. We train year round, 6 days a week, a couple hours a day. Sometimes we do 3 hours a day with an extra swim in there at lunch, an extra lift in the afternoon. So check it out. If you go to stewsmith.com, click that free workouts link at the top, and you will see all the information you need. There's a video about it, and you'll see a little bit about the Heroes of Tomorrow program that I use. And basically, you guys that join me for those give me ideas to write about, right? So it works out for everybody. So I'm a writer. I write all these books behind me, and I focus on tactical fitness. So military, law enforcement, firefighter fitness. I do speaking engagements as well. And also have, website stewsmithfitness.com. If you go to that, you'll see all my books, coaching. I have a membership program as well. I'll put links to all these down in the description here afterwards, so you can see where I am. So we get a lot of people from out of state that just come visit. They stay at an Airbnb down the road, and they come visit with us, train with us for a few days or a week, and then head back home. So like I said, you can't argue with the price. We run, swim, PT, lift every day, except for Sunday. We rest, and we get after it. So like I said, it's been a lot of fun. It's something that I really enjoy. And people get a lot out of it. So anyway, if you guys have questions, email me. My email address is stew@stewsmith.com. I'll put that in the description as well. And thanks for listening. And if you have any questions that I didn't get to, 9 times out of 10, I want you to try this. Go to Google, type in your question, and put Stu Smith by it. I guarantee you I've probably written about it, like nutrition for gaining weight, or swimming with a hurt shoulder, or doing push-ups after an injury, or running a mile and a half, running a 4-mile timed run. Do that and put it Stu Smith by it, because I literally have written about 1,200 articles in my life, and they're up there on military.com, on my site, and you'll find some information on that, right? But if you don't find it, just email me. I'll answer it. Your emails give me ideas to write articles. And in fact, if I've written about it, I will probably just send you a link of that article that I've written that and answered that question years ago. So I've been doing this for a while, got my system down. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. So I am going to sign off here, if I can figure it out. And I will, until next time, you guys take it easy.